Well, hello everyone. I'd like to read a poem called The MG. How dearly I did love that car. What sunny places it took me, what bridges crossed and in such style. How great that feeling of being, the leather seats, the wire wheels, the top that opened to the sky. The ocean waves, rally races, shoreline trips, the trek across the country. It drove across the college years and brought me to the future. Ice cream sundaes, country drives, a woman's heart to capture. Such joy in such a small machine, but not without its moods. The breakdown nights, sides of the road, the rust holes in the floorboards. But with regret, I must confess it met its undeserved demise. Painted by a thief at night, it sorely deserved otherwise. My early days cannot be counted without this recollection, for sweet it was, and joyous too, that lovely English mechanical vehicular creation. There you have it. You know, I think cars and dogs are accomplices in our life, and I think they have powerful influences. You know, your first car, all that happened with it. This wasn't my first car, but it was a beautiful car. It was an MGB, made Morris Garage in England. I think it was a 1964, and I got it in, I don't know, 69, 70. It was white with red leather seats, wood kind of inside, convertible, black top, a mighty 95 horsepower, four cylinders, SU carbs, great little car, knockoff wheels, wire wheels that had these locks on them that you could spinners that would pull the wheel off, take the wheel off. Now this car started, I don't know, a girlfriend after high school, my girlfriend and I bought the car together. Now the relationship did not last a whole lot longer than that, and in tragedy, I think I got the car in consolation. That was difficult, that loss, but I had the MG. It was a wonderful car, except tended to break down. There were some issues. Let's say one night while driving down the shore, going to New Jersey, to the coast, to the shoreline where there are bars and clubs. Coming back around 2 o'clock in the morning, probably having drunk some, the oil radiator sprung a leak. And so at 3 o'clock in the morning, the car was beginning to overheat. So now this is a car that I always kept my toolbox in. Until, of course, the floorboards on the back began to rot out and they could no longer hold the toolbox. It was fairly heavy. But in the middle of the night, I had to gerrymander something, jerry rig the thing to get it back home. It was a great little car. In that, there was I worked nights at 30th Street for the Penn Central Railroad, my first real job, 12 to 8. And so I would take this car to get to work. And there is a road called, I think it's Kelly Drive, off of the Roosevelt Boulevard that gets you downtown. The Penn Central office building was by 30th Street. And this road was just a couple of lanes, rather twisty, long, no lights, no stop signs, stretches of probably several miles of nice road right by the Schuylkill River. A great drive at whatever 11:30 at night, or not so much in the morning, but at night, top down. That was a wonderful road to be on. Well, I did take this car to Penn State, and there was a couple of rallies, a couple of scavenger hunts we went on. I think we looked good. A roommate of mine and I, a little dapper hat, and this little beautiful white sports car. We looked wonderful. However, in a scavenger hunt, they give you clues, and you got to sort of identify the clues, and we weren't so good at that. I think one time we got lost. But nonetheless, we looked good doing it. The car also at one point got me into some legal jeopardy. Now, I mentioned the difficulty in the mechanics of the car. One time, well, let's say this. The starter didn't work. So what I began to do, I didn't have much money at Penn State. The starter wouldn't work, so I would park it on a hill where I could just kind of give a little push, get it into second gear, and off and running. Well as the starter not working, the emergency brake didn't work real well. So you had to put it in gear to stop it when you parked. Well, a friend of mine, I think, borrowed the car and didn't do that. And the car eventually rolled into another car. Well, that led to some not big, but some legal issues, let's say, that took a little while to resolve. Another aspect of the mechanical piece of it, I remember working nights at the Penn Central, and lunchtime was like at 4 o'clock, 4:30. I went out to the parking lot. Sometimes I would go to get a steak sandwich. It was Philadelphia. So I went out, and as I approached the car, I noticed there was a guy hanging around the car. And the closer I got, he was doing something to the roof. So I kind of yelled at him, and he ran off. And as I inspected the car, I'd noticed that there was about a foot-long slit in the fabric top. I think the guy was trying to get in and steal the car. So, interesting things with this car. Now, I took it as well to Michigan. This was after graduate school. This is after undergraduate. Took it to Michigan, which was a cross-country trip, probably a stupid thing to do, but nonetheless, it got me there. And in this little MG, which had 2 front seats and just a little area in the back, a little area that at one point fit about 3 adults, 2 guys in the front and 3 of my buddies in the back. I remember that evening because we had been drinking a little, and one of the guys threw up all over the back of my car. But nonetheless, I drove it out to Michigan with all that I owned at the time. And a couple of days later, I met this woman. I didn't know anybody in Michigan. I went to Eastern Michigan University, Ypsilanti, Michigan. And what got me there was that I'd gone to community college and knew some people, and so I ran into some people, and this one woman said, there's a school out in Michigan. You can get a master's degree in psychology. And I was like, hey, I was a psychology major. It sounded like a good deal. So I drove out there, not knowing anybody. But I met this guy, my first class, and he knew this woman, so I met her. And this was to become something special. But anyway, the car, I think, played an important role. It was sort of my wingman. The maybe the second date, I think. I don't know if it was the first date. Anyway, I pull up to her house and have her come out to the car, and on the seat I have two Dairy Queen strawberry sundaes. And I think from that point on, it was like a done deal. We got married, and frankly, we're still married 45 years later. Now, the car met rather, as the poem said, a sad demise. I had a one-room place I lived at Eastern Michigan University. I didn't have a whole lot of money. That's about all I could afford, and I didn't live in the dorms. But nonetheless, this a woman had her upstairs that she rented out, and there was a couple of rooms upstairs, and there was this other guy in the other room. We shared a bathroom. It wasn't a real friendly guy, kind of a town guy. Wasn't going to school. I was going to school. Well, at some point he left. And, it was toward the end of the semester. I think I needed some money for the next semester, so I had to sell the car. So I sold it to him. Sold to him for about $500. And unfortunately, the next week I noticed after he was gone that he had painted it red, which was rather sad. And it was a home paint job. It wasn't even a good spray. So that was kind of sad. And I think in the poem I call him a thief because he stole some of my records as well. This car. You think of a car and it's kind of done and you use it. It's a machine. It wears out. And then it's out of your life. Well, this is interesting. Because of the mechanical issues with the car, it taught me a lot. SU carbs and everything. With my tools in the back. I bought a manual, a shop manual, which had all the ins and outs. Wonderful book. I still have that book because you never know when you're going to run into an MG that's being sold for a good price. So I've kept that manual. And the other piece of it is that when I drove out to Michigan, I had a small palm tree in the car. It was maybe about a foot tall. That palm tree today is about 7 feet. Still living, still with me. So this car had an impact. I thank God for that little car. The trips, the fun, the hassles, the life that car brought. Take care.